financial capital. This is the news at 10, live from Channels Television. Reporting tonight, Amarachi Ubani.
Good evening and welcome. Tonight, military aviation disrupts operations in Akure Airport for what it calls security reasons. Rivers Edo State governments condemn treatment meted on their governors by security operatives. Federal government revokes all coal blocks not developed by their owners. And United States President Barack Obama agrees to take target raid against Iraqi Islamists.
And tonight on Business News, Nigeria is set to launch new commodities exchange to grow agribusiness.
And on sports news tonight, Elephants of Côte d'Ivoire suffer their first defeat at the FIFA World Cup.
Gloria Omezuke, and from Abuja, heated debate at the National Conference over motion calling more action to prevent Boko Haram from spreading beyond the northeast.
Flight operations in and out of Akure Airport were disrupted today following what authorities say were security reasons. The decision not only affected passengers whose flights had been scheduled to take off or make a landing at the airport, but some governors in the All Progressives Congress going for a planned rally in Ekiti State. Eyewitnesses say there was heavy military presence at the airport, making it impossible for planes to lift off. When contacted, the Federal Airports Authority of Nigeria said it had nothing to do with the closure of the airport, as the decision was purely from the aviation arm of the armed forces. In the meantime, the governors of Rivers and Edo states, Chibuike Amechi and Adams Oshomole, have expressed concern over the grounding of two chartered aircrafts meant to take the governors separately to a political event in Ado-Ekiti, Ekiti State. The governors alleged that despite disallowing their planes, others conveying the ministers of defense, Police Affairs and Minister of State for Defense were allowed to land despite an alleged closure of the airport.
The Rivers State government has condemned in strongest terms what it calls the unwholesome treatment allegedly meted out to the governor of the state, Chibuike Amechi, by security operatives in Odudu in Ondo State while he was on his way to Ado-Ekiti. Reacting through a press conference in Port Harcourt, the state capital, the Commissioner for Information and Communications says the government is concerned about the incident, especially as two ministers were given unfettered access to Ekiti State through the Akure Airport.
He was stopped from entering into Ekiti by personnel who claimed that they were acting on orders from above. As he was stopped, Governor Amechi made to turn back to return to his aircraft, his chartered aircraft that was waiting in Akure Airport to take him back to base. As he made to turn, Governor Amechi was ambushed and stopped from continuing.
For the Edo State government, the grounding of the helicopter meant to fly the state governor, Adams Oshomole, to the same Ekiti State at the Benin airport is unacceptable. And the media advisor to the governor, Kashim Afegwa, who confirmed the incident, described it as one harassment too many.
It is true that the comrade governor's chopper was grounded from flying or from conveying the comrade governor to his destination of Ekiti State. And on inquiry from the Air Force commander, he said we have instructions from above, to prevent any flights going out from Edo State, or particularly Benin City, to Ekiti or Akure airports.
When contacted about the matter, the Federal Airport Authority of Nigeria says it has nothing to do with the incident as it is in the purview of military aviation.
In the meantime, the People's Democratic Party is asking the All Progressives Congress to jettison what it calls undemocratic and anti-people tendencies and imbibe the proper comportment of an opposition party in a democratic setting. The PDP National Publicity Secretary, Olisa Metu, in a statement today in Abuja, said with its new leadership, Nigerians expect new behavior from the APC and that the opposition party must understand that its role is not a rebel group. It should therefore dismiss all actions and tendencies that are portrayed in that light. According to Mr. Metu, quote, the APC must be advised to undertake a survey of how other opposition parties conduct themselves. Being an opposition party does not in any way confer a culture of irresponsibility. Being an opposition party does not in any way confer a license for promotion of violence. And being an opposition party does not confer use of blackmail and falsehood as means of achieving political control. He said Nigerians were no longer comfortable with an opposition driven by frustration and bitterness, characterized by compulsive penchant for lies and deceit. The Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, has begun distributing sensitive electoral materials for Saturday's elections in Ekiti State. The distribution of the materials to various polling centers, or areas, is being keenly monitored by party agents and major political parties under heavy security. Election officers from different polling areas across the 16 local government areas of the state are also seen receiving the materials from top INEC officials. We're staying with the election matters and politics. Members of the All Progressives Grand Alliance, APGA, today stormed the mausoleum of the late party leader, Chukwuemeka Ojukwu, in Nnewi, in celebration of the victory obtained at the Court of Appeal in Enugu and Abuja. The jubilant crowd, led by the national chairman of the party, Chief Victor Ome, and Emeka Ojukwu Jr., paid their respects to the late leader and prayed at the mausoleum. Chief Ome described his victory as a consolidation of the party's leadership.
With my victory at the Court of Appeal yesterday, our leadership of APGA became consolidated. These two judgments are like rocks of Gibraltar. Our leadership can no longer be shaken by anybody. With that, we are now prepared to lead our party to the next election in 2015. We were able to make waves in crisis. And without crisis for the next 8 months, I can tell you that APGA will surprise Nigerians. We are going to garner more victories across the country.
Away from politics now, Nigerians who have refused to develop their coal block licenses will have such licenses revoked by the federal government. This decision is outcome of the meeting held by the National Council on Privatization, presided over by Vice President Namadi Sambo at the Presidential Villa. Briefing State House correspondents after the meeting, the Minister of Power, Professor Chinedu Nebo, condemned a situation where Nigeria is losing huge sums of money in power production due to importation of coal in the country, whereas coal deposits is in large quantity.
Unfortunately, there are many people who have licenses for coal blocks, but unfortunately have not developed them. This is costing the country huge sums of money with regard to power production and also to importation of coal by some companies in Nigeria to produce their own power. I think this is not acceptable. And so the National Council on Privatization, under the chairmanship of the Vice President, has now decided to do something very proactive to make sure that those who are holding on to these coal blocks, like land speculators, are, shown the way out of these licenses because there is no reason why we will be looking for coal to produce power and people are sitting on these resources and refusing to develop them. I don't think it's a very patriotic thing to do, and so the decision of the National Council on Privatization is to ensure that those who do not want to immediately begin to produce coal have their licenses withdrawn.
Minister of Power, Professor Chinedu Nebo. Now to security, the Director General of the National Orientation Center, Mr. Mike Omeri, says further screening by security agencies is continuing on the 486 travelers intercepted in Abia State on June 16. Addressing journalists at the security briefing in Abuja, Mr. Omeri appealed to all Nigerians to remain calm and go about their normal businesses, as the federal government is doing everything in its power to bring peace back to the nation. He, however, urged the elites to restrain themselves from making comments that are not true about the security situation in the country without concrete information so as not to escalate the challenges. Mr. Omeri emphasized his confidence on the return of the kidnapped schoolgirls. According to him, the security agencies and the federal government are working hard to ensure their safe return.
The government of Nigeria is not initiating a project that will lead to any crisis. The government of Nigeria is working hard to ensure that peace and stability becomes. Nigeria is not initiating a project that will lead to any crisis. The government of Nigeria is working hard to ensure that peace and stability becomes the sing song and the sound and sight of every citizen. And therefore, we appeal again that leaders, whether they are religious or traditional, whether they are in government or out of it, should please restrain themselves, make inquiries before they make comments. Because some just woke up in the morning and issue press statements without even finding out what or why. People who are making these comments should also ask, why are these people traveling at this hour of the night? Have they met them? Have they interviewed them to find out that they are going to Port Harcourt or Rivers for a job interview? Where is the job? And you and I know that Nigerians from all parts of the country don't move like that in sight of jobs. This is abnormal. This is abnormal. You know it. So that is why it's curious. And as explained, after interrogation, after all manner of processes, every one of them will be allowed to go home, or to go to either to continue his journey or to go back as a free citizen of this country. But the security forces owe the rest of us a responsibility, and we should work with them.
The Director General of the National Orientation Center, Mr. Mike Omeri. And in part two, after the break, a court restrains House of Representatives from probing Petroleum Minister over alleged missing funds. That's in a moment. Please stay with us.